You threw me straight into the fire, and honestly, that is exactly what I was trying to warn about. Things just got heated on a whole new level. Big Meech's nephew has fired off some bold words aimed directly at 50 Cent, and the audio recently leaked to the public. And let us be real, 50 is not the kind of person to take something like that lightly. For a while now, there has been an undercurrent of tension between 50 Cent and the BMF circle. But this feels different. It is no longer about business or storytelling, it is turning personal. The lines are getting blurred, and egos are stepping into the spotlight. It all started when 50 took his first steps into the BMF story, trying to shape it for television. But now, the family that lived it is starting to push back. And with this latest outburst from Meech's nephew, the quiet storm is beginning to sound a lot more like a war drum. Things are spiraling fast, and now 50 Cent is not only clashing with Big Meech and his son Lil Meech, but he has also found himself in a new feud with Meech's nephew. What started as subtle tension is now erupting into a very public showdown. And if you know anything about 50 Cent, you already know he is not the type to take the high road. No, he is going to turn this into a spectacle, dripping with sarcasm, pettiness, and headline-grabbing drama. This clash has been brewing for a while. 50 began throwing shade toward Big Meech some time ago, even going so far as to imply that Meech had snitched, a serious accusation in any world, but especially dangerous in the streets and hip-hop culture. Being labeled a rat is more than disrespect. It is a declaration of war. But 50 did not stop with vague commentary. He took the conflict to Instagram, where he started posting pointed lyrics, cryptic photos, and not-so-subtle digs. When he dropped that rat emoji next to Rick Ross lyrics, that was the moment things officially exploded. Then, on Tuesday, February 25th, 50 went even further. He jumped online with what he called receipts, legal paperwork he claimed showed Big Meech had provided inside information to help the feds. The documents, originally shared by online figure 1090 Jake, suggested that Tammy Cowens, one of Meech's former business associates, allegedly passed along intel that originated from Meech himself. The purpose? To aid federal authorities in bringing down certain drug traffickers. This is no longer just whispers or internet beef. Real names are being dropped, real documents are being shown, and with each new post, each jab, 50 is making it clear. This is not just about a TV show anymore. This is personal, messy, and unfolding in front of everyone's eyes. Real cases are getting unearthed, old wounds are being reopened, and things are starting to feel less like a TV script and more like a courtroom documentary. But it does not stop there, because now even Lil Meech is caught in the crossfire. You would think playing his own father on 50 Cent's BMF series would have created a tight bond between the two. On paper, it made sense. A personal legacy told through family and art. But behind the scenes, it seems like the picture is very different. According to 50, that working relationship has been rocky at best. He did not hold back either. 50 went public, claiming that Lil Meech had been causing serious problems on set. He hinted at some deep personal issues, even suggesting there was a struggle with substance use that eventually led to Lil Meech being sent to rehab. And the allegations did not end there. Said it was not just him noticing the behavior. He pointed fingers toward other cast and crew members too. Names like Russell Hornsby were mentioned, along with producers who allegedly witnessed the same erratic behavior. Just when things looked like they could not get more tangled, rapper 42 Dugg's name surfaced, adding yet another layer to the chaos, brewing between real life and the story being portrayed on screen. Blessed Big Meech with $100K when he got out of prison now. You know, 50 wasn't feeling that one bit. He hopped on Instagram with his usual petty energy calling Dugg out and basically saying that money should have gone to his own people instead of Meech. And in true 50 fashion, he made sure everybody knew where he stood. He posted, "Your daddy my ninja, I love you and cheese. Cause of cute, you made a mistake giving. Screech, $100,000, you could have given that to your ninjas. You have always been hard-headed. UTF oops straight messy, but 42. Dugg wasn't about to just sit there and take it. He clapped back immediately on his Instagram stories, standing 10 toes behind Big Meech and making it very clear that nobody was going to convince him to turn his back on Detroit. And when the blog started running with that $100,000 story, Dugg shut it all the way down, calling it fake news. Now just when folks thought this drama couldn't get any wilder, 50 came back with some text messages and baby the streets. Had been waiting for this tea. These messages said, "Lol, I'm not gonna blow you up, bro." But Cuffy's nephew said he got the audio of him and 42 Dugg on a three-way with Meech. They about to drop it. He confronted Meech and Meech put him with Tammy. He got the records to prove it. So basically we are talking about baby Cuffy's nephew, 42. Dugg and Big Meech all on this one three-way call. And let me tell you, things went left real quick when that audio finally hit the streets. It was just as messy as we thought in this call. Baby wasn't holding anything back. He was pressing Big Meech hard to prove it to you or anybody else. Okay, you are not nobody. Evidently, I'm somebody cause you keep trying to be like me. Be like you, baby. Look at me, look at me. Grandpa, have you always had this hatred towards each other? I just want her to be herself. I mean, the only reason why I call her out on her lies because I know their lives. I know this man. Not one time did he say, "I got Minnie pregnant." Yeah, based on reports, cast members like Miss Juicy revealed that the producers allegedly pushed them to stir up drama in exchange for screen time. Reportedly, they were pressured to fake fights or risk being written off the show. The cast was allegedly told leveled at their screen. The harsh reality of the show was that the women's time and, ultimately, their role on the show were contingent on the drama they could generate. It was a dangerous game, one that forced the cast into emotional extremes in order to keep their positions secure. This manipulation didn't just create tension for the sake of ratings, it pushed the women into deeply uncomfortable emotional spirals. The problem, however, was not just the staged arguments. It was the way these situations often spiraled beyond the script into real-life confrontation. As some of the most explosive feuds played out, like the infamous clashes between Minnie and the twins, particularly Andrea, the drama veered dangerously into harmful territory. Fans and critics alike noted the intensity of these arguments, with many remarking how outrageous the altercations became. It wasn't just about putting on a good show anymore. The emotional toll was undeniable. In some cases, these fights didn't just leave mental scars, they resulted in physical injuries, something that should never be trivialized for the sake of entertainment. If the women involved had known just how deep the manipulation would go, how much the emotional cost would weigh on them, many would have reconsidered what they were willing to sacrifice for their place in the spotlight. I probably should have just stayed home, she thought aloud, feeling conflicted. I hate kicking Minnie out, but honestly, it's probably the best decision for Chris and me. I just hope she can forgive me. With a heavy sigh, she glanced around. Guess I'll start packing. Minnie, a friend who had always been there, offered to help. You want me to assist you? She asked, but the response came with a bitter twist. I'm good. I'm just not looking forward to going back to my mom's house. She warned me this would happen, and now I'm going to hear it from her. She told me not to ignore her advice. As she reflected on it all, she realized how deeply she had put herself second to others. Particularly, she had allowed the twins to dominate her life. People often said Minnie had low self-esteem, believing that the twins, who were Hispanic with lighter skin and straight hair, were somehow superior. Fans also noticed that Minnie seemed to protect them at all costs, almost like a guard. Dugg, enduring ridicule from the other women when they would belittle her. It didn't stop there. Minnie had even taken on the role of a caretaker when Andrea had her baby, only to end up being cast aside, discarded over a man who had mistreated Andrea. It was a lot to process. It's hard for me to tell you this, she admitted, her voice breaking slightly. I really appreciate you being here. I like having you around. You've been a great support, especially before Chris came back. I didn't feel so alone. But now that Chris had returned, things were different. She had to choose a side, even if it meant making some painful decisions. In the midst of all the drama, there was an underlying sense of discomfort that few could ignore. After having several discussions, it became clear that boundaries needed to be set. I think it's best if you move out, they said, wanting to preserve their privacy and maintain some sense of peace. But things took a much darker turn when tragedy struck. Minnie, a beloved cast member, passed away, and her death became an overwhelming weight on the group. The cast members admitted that they struggled to cope with the loss, especially since her funeral was aired during the final season. To make matters worse, reports suggest that production didn't allow them the time or space to grieve properly. Instead of allowing them to mourn in peace, they were forced into the spotlight, something that only added to the chaos and toxicity. Sadly, this seemed to be exactly what the producers were after: the heightened drama, the constant emotional strain. It was their formula, one that relied on pushing the cast members to their limits. But it wasn't just about the staged confrontations. According to sources, they were also encouraged to create fake friendships for the sake of the show's narrative. These manufactured bonds didn't just feel forced, they led to real emotional fallout. There were even reports of fabricated romantic storylines, ones that left deep scars for some of the cast. One cast member allegedly discovered her partner's infidelity after watching it unfold on screen. For others, relationships were shaped, and sometimes shattered, by the very drama they were being asked to create. The Tiny Twins, for example, were caught up in their own on-again, off-again relationship drama, while Monique Cachette's marriage and eventual divorce became one of the show's key storylines. These personal stories, manipulated for entertainment, left behind a trail of real-life heartbreak. The emotional toll of having her personal life laid bare for millions to scrutinize was incredibly heavy. One moment in particular stands out. Miss Juicy, a true star, faced rejection in front of the camera. She put herself out there, vulnerable and hopeful, seeking a connection, only to be met with indifference. The man she was interested in barely seemed to acknowledge her, and it was heartbreaking to watch the iconic Queen of Atlanta experience such an unceremonious rejection on national television. It was a raw, painful moment that reminded viewers just how much she had to endure. Everyone expresses love and affection in their own unique way, and despite the public spectacle, it's clear that Miss Juicy's heart was in the right place. She poured her emotions into her efforts, fully invested in making a meaningful connection. It was a moment where she opened herself up, only to have her sincerity and vulnerability dismissed. That's the type of emotional labor that comes with living under the microscope of reality television, where even the most personal moments become entertainment for others. There was an undeniable tension surrounding the show, especially when it came to Miss Juicy's romantic storyline. Viewers could sense the awkwardness, with many speculating that she was fully aware the man wasn't genuinely interested in her. The entire situation seemed staged, crafted solely for the drama and ratings. Unfortunately, it appeared the producers cared more about sensationalizing the cast's lives than about their emotional well-being. This led to serious consequences experiences, including emotional breakdowns, anxiety, and depression, with very little support from the production team. Behind the scenes, the working conditions were reportedly so bad that a former crew member even described them as a lawsuit waiting to happen. The pressures of being constantly in the spotlight were immense. One cast member was said to have sought help from a mental health facility during a filming break, unable to handle the weight of it all. For Miss Juicy, the toll was also significant. She has been candid about the mental health struggles she faced, openly discussing the cruel, online trolling and hateful comments she received. She spoke about the emotional burden of reliving painful moments on screen, only to face a wave of public criticism. For some cast members, the experience became so overwhelming that they distanced themselves entirely from reality TV. The trauma of being on the show, coupled with the relentless negativity from viewers, led many to seek peace away from the spotlight. It was a stark reminder of the cost of fame and the toll it can take on one's mental health. After all the challenges Miss Juicy went through, it makes sense why she eventually chose to step away from the spotlight and live a more peaceful, normal life. The constant pressure from being on the reality show, combined with the judgment and expectations from the public, must have been overwhelming. No one could have easily handled all that stress without it taking a toll, and for Miss Juicy, it seemed like a breaking point. A big part of her life that added even more complexity was her brief relationship with comedian Ricky Smiley. Their romance, which was short-lived, only seemed to add to the emotional burden Miss Juicy was already carrying. Ricky himself mentioned their time together in passing, almost dismissing it as a minor part of his life. He said, "Yeah, I dated Juicy for a minute, but that didn't last. We went to Alpha B's in Atlanta, and that was pretty much the extent of it." It was clear from his words that he didn't see it as something important, and his casual approach to their past only seemed to show how little impact the relationship had on him. However, for Miss Juicy, things weren't that simple. Relationships, like this one, alongside all the other struggles she faced, only seemed to make her situation harder. Rather than bringing her the joy or support she needed, it seemed to add more pain to her life. Her time in the public eye wasn't filled with the glamour or happiness that many people think comes with fame. Instead, it was a constant battle with difficult personal relationships and public struggles, making her time in the spotlight feel more like a curse than a blessing. The public's perception of her, shaped by the reality show and its dramatized moments, didn't help matters either. It's easy for people to forget that the people they see on television are real individuals with real emotions and challenges. Miss Juicy's life was under constant scrutiny, with everything from her relationships to her personality being dissected by the public. The show itself added to this pressure, pushing her and other cast members to create drama for ratings, which only intensified the emotional toll. Instead of finding fulfillment in her fame, Miss Juicy found herself dealing with the darker side of it all. The fame that many people dream of brought her nothing but stress, anxiety, and heartache. It's understandable why she would eventually seek something more private and peaceful, away from the cameras and constant judgment. After so much time in the limelight, it seems that she just wanted a break, to live her life without the weight of the world on her shoulders. Leaving the spotlight wasn't just about escaping fame, it was about finding herself again. It's likely that Miss Juicy realized that the things that brought her happiness before, like her career and relationships, had changed. The constant cycle of filming, fighting, and living under a microscope wasn't giving her the joy she expected. Instead, it was taking more from her than it was giving. Choosing to step away from the public eye, after all the emotional pain and exhaustion, seems like the best decision Miss Juicy could have made. It was a way for her to regain control over her own life, away from the pressure of television networks and fans who thought they knew her. It's clear that her journey wasn't easy, but it also showed the importance of taking care of oneself, especially when the world around you is filled with so much noise and chaos. Despite everything she's been through, Miss Juicy seems to be taking things one day at a time now, finding peace and healing in her own way. Whether she's doing it quietly on social media or simply enjoying time away from the spotlight, she's showing that sometimes walking away from it all is the healthiest choice. It's a reminder that fame, while it can bring attention and success, doesn't always lead to happiness. What matters more is finding what truly brings peace and fulfillment, even if that means stepping out of the public eye altogether. In the end, Miss Juicy's story is one of resilience. She faced a lot of struggles, many of which came from being in the public eye, and yet she's managed to find a way to move forward. It's a testament to the strength of a person who knows when to step back and take control of their own life, no matter what the world expects of them. Sometimes it's not about fame or the spotlight, it's about finding your peace and living life on your own terms. "Rick, I'm not doing this. Nope, I'm not going there," she said, cutting the conversation short. You can tell Miss Juicy's life, both during and after the show, has been a roller coaster, and I can understand why she might have been an easy target for a group like that. But here's the thing. Miss Juicy has recently been active on her TikTok lives, and from what I can see, she seems to be doing just fine. So what do you think about everything she's endured? Was being on the reality show worth it for her, or did it just leave her more damaged than before? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below.